Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever episode in English on this channel, and we're gonna talk about, surprise surprise, Sylius, the one and only e-commerce framework based on Symfony, and also the very product that gave us the work and our careers and our company in general. This is how we all started and met all together, and this is gonna be the topic of this episode. So our story with Sylius, how it all started for us, how we contributed to the Sylius development, and what it all means to our lives, to our careers, and to our friends, and the community, and everyone who watches us. So, Mateusz and Łukasz, welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful?
That was really beautiful introduction. Yeah?
Really beautiful introduction. Really. I love myself so much. Okay, so how it all started. Do you remember your first day at Sylius? How you were recruited to the first company behind Sylius?
Yeah, because it was not the first day in Sylius itself, in the Sylius company, but in the company that was before Sylius. It was called Lakion. As far as I know, the company still exists.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it was the company that was started by Paweł, who is the founder of Sylius, the creator of the framework, and Michał,
who's still an owner
of Lakion, and surprisingly, like they both were our colleagues from high school.
The typical high school story. So it's
typical
like
high school story. We didn't have a garage, but we had some office.
And you didn't have instruments unless the computers are instruments.
Computers are kind of instruments of our job.
What other instrument do you have?
There's also a garage band on every Mac OS, so there was some kind of garage and band also.
Indeed. Yeah, and the very company called Apple was also created in garage. At least this is the legend.
Yeah. But speaking about the introduction to the Lakion, I have the funny story. So first of all, we all met together in the high school. Me, Mateusz, Grzegorz, who still works at Sylius, and Paweł, the founder of Sylius. And then Paweł started working on the project itself. We started our studies, and at some moment of our lives, I traveled to Norway for Erasmus exchange.
Yeah.
And Mateusz and Grzegorz started already working for some IT company in Łódź, both of you in different ones.
Yeah, it was not the same one.
Yeah, but the point is that they had some kind of job, and I was outside of Poland. When I come back, I was the only one unemployed. So I received a proposal to work with Paweł just because both Grzegorz and Mateusz already refused to do so. I was so
that's exactly the story. Yeah.
Because Grzegorz had the first offer, I guess, and you the second or something like that.
Yeah,
both of them were already received.
What was your job before Lakion?
I didn't have any job before Sylius. So
you had job.
Pizza
delivery. I never worked in the IT.
So now you deliver projects before you deliver pizza. Bang. And so you were the last resort for Paweł. Yeah. There was nobody else on the market.
There was nobody else we went. No one else was our common friend that already had studied computer science, and we went to one class. So the reason was that it was all about the connections that Paweł had at that moment. And he wanted to hire someone in Łódź who knows anything about software development. And being at the studies was just reasoning that, okay, they studied for 3 years already. They know something about it. That's the easiest way to hire. So if it wouldn't be us, there would be someone else.
So actually, Michał, the co-founder of Lakion, also hired me because Paweł was on vacation.
But that was already like a year later.
Yeah,
maybe
2 years.
Yeah, let's put it on the timeline, by the way. So Paweł starts Sylius in 2011 in one of the block of flats on one of many districts of Łódź, the central city of Poland. I guess that back then he didn't even know what he's doing. Like he was, as far as I know, as far as he told us, he just wanted to put on the GitHub the solution that he developed for his mom and his aunt, Sylwia and Justyna. And this is how Sylius' name was created. So Sylwia, Justyna come together as Sylius. And this was the family cosmetics business. And I think it worked for them. So they had the e-commerce. And then he decided to just publish it in the open source world. Okay, so let's make it clear. Like Paweł was developing the early version of Sylius when being hired by KMP Labs. And then I remember that they were kind of owner of the solution for a while.
Paweł worked on Sylius at his time at KMP Labs. KMP Labs used Sylius for the projects.
Yeah.
They were lean to invest into it or at least be partial owner, and they became owner of the trademark.
Oh, this is it. So they were owner, but not
the whole
the
project.
trademark.
It was, or at least there was some kind of the trademark discussion, disputes when we were already in the Lakion. They were never owner of Sylius. Paweł was the only owner until like 2 years ago, and they were only just involved into development. Some partially, I'm not sure if they even sponsor, but rather he had option to use his own product on the client's project, so there was some space to develop, but he also invested his free time into that.
Anyway, he decided to do business on his own, and he bootstrapped Lakion. And then you were one of the first employees.
We are not the first, but we're the second in the third.
Okay. What do you remember from the first days with Sylius and the first days in Lakion? How it all started?
I remember that we knew shit about PHP.
Okay.
Sorry. I remember that we didn't know anything about PHP.
What did you know? What programming language did you know?
Mostly Java.
Java.
I think that most of the people that were studying on our university was being educated to be a Java developer, because there were plenty of Java, the big companies that were using Java in Łódź. And we were also thinking about being Java developers. Maybe we were thinking about some mobile applications. Even my bachelor degree project was with the Java and with Android. And and after, like, when we were doing that, Michał and Paweł asked us if we would like to join, and we were like, but we don't know about the PHP at all. And Paweł said that PHP is like Java, but you put the $sign, and instead of the dot, you have an arrow, and that's all. And obviously it was a joke, but on some level of abstraction, it is kind of like this. Like right now, much more than it was back then, because it was in the world when we had the PHP 5 and 6, so it was much different than we have right now.
So you were like you got to the company the first day, and you were trained immediately?
We were trained.
The first assignment was to go through some online guide how to code with Symfony. That was the first task. Second one, they already started us putting some knowledge about testing, BDD, etc. So we didn't even know the language, but already they start poisoning our brains with tests and all the good architecture, clean code, object calisthenics, and all that shit that we were doing and praising or evangelizing for all our careers. And then right after that, so we had some few sample things. I don't even remember if we had any sample project. It was right after we started working on the bundle for Sylius report bundle.
We started to work on report bundle. So it was kind of funny, because from the perspective of time, it seems like the onboarding was, you have a Symfony here, you have a PHP, you have a Sylius. You know everything. Let's do some bundle to Sylius. And we just created the report bundle. I remember that we co-created it. So we were like both developing the report bundle. The first pull request that we opened to Sylius, it was like 80 commits or something like this. We were super crazy happy about that. And people in the community were really kind. It was like, thank you guys, it's really good. Maybe next time think about not doing a lot of commits in one pull request,
or at least making them like meaningful, so they could review commit after commit, something like that.
Actually, we didn't even we knew the Git system.
But Git was also
but we were not used to. We were not used to work with that, so everything was new for us. I remember that when we joined, and I was given the MacBook Air as my work computer, and I was super happy about that. And Łukasz had Mac Mini, and it was rubbish.
It was such a disaster.
So for a long time, not for a long time, but for some time, I had like a leverage of being more effective because of the computer.
Unfair advantage at the very beginning. But okay, but you said that the first pull request was already reviewed by the community. So was there not like internal review before? You were immediately.
No, of course they were trying to give a high level glance over what we were doing, but then we had plenty of freedom. the description or requirements were like almost not existent. Like there were some high level concepts. We can
We
always
need a report system for Sylius.
yeah, we could ask for it. They draw some kind of architecture for that, and then here's another bundle of Sylius. Let's do exactly the same one. That's why report bundle never went into the stable release. But thankfully, the Odysseus team was there, and big shout out for them because our report system kind of still.
If you take a look at the Odysseus report plugin for Sylius, this is like originally it was the report bundle that we created and it was thrown out from Sylius before the stable release, and they took that and created the report plugin.
So big shout out for the Odysseus team for maintaining that work.
I think they did the same with role-based access control plugin,
which is your work later.
It was forked by them and developed into a plugin maintained by them separately.
Maybe,
but I mean,
like we definitely abandoned the airbag plugin for some time. We also had the import export plugin that we created as a second plugin.
Yeah,
and I don't know if the import export that is in front of Sylius is the one that is based on our work.
If I recall correctly, it was never properly merged because the first iteration of it was like 11,000 lines, and our laptops were not capable of opening all that appear to review.
Just to prove you are not lying, there is a report bundle repository on GitHub still maintained by Friends of Sylius, and it is forked from Sylius. So I guess Friends of Sylius were somehow the organization that took over the abandoned plugins that for some reason didn't make it to the core. But yeah, this is the power of the community. So thank you, and thank you again for being there and always covering us if we didn't, for some reason, continue our work.
Yep.
Because it's useful for many other projects.
Moving forward, once we were done with report bundle, it was almost summer. So Pavel,
summertime.
Yeah, they also
I just browsed through the commit history and have the initial commit of Sylius report bundle created by me, and it's really nice thing to see that because I have not seen this code for like
10 years.
10 years. No, almost.
We are on the 10-year anniversary seeing the commit because today it was 11th of February when the first commit was, and today is like February 12th.
I really hope there are fanboys watching us, fanboys of Sylius and ourselves for some reason, and they are exactly as happy as we are digging in this history.
Obviously, we will link this report.
Yeah, obviously. But you wanted to move forward on something like...
Yep, because then Pavel and Michał had on their shoulders some project for the client, which generated cash for the company. And we were, okay, so we have cash that we could burn down for new recruitments. And Pavel ran out of his colleagues from the high school that could code with him at this moment. So we opened for the academic trades.
Okay.
Hire few next people that were like on the third year of the university, had also different backgrounds, so C# and Java. No PHP developer there, and we opened the summer school together with on the side hiring Grzegorz, the one that is still in Sylius, so maintaining the project until today.
Yeah. He's currently the head of technology at Sylius or something like that.
Something like that.
Right. So it was.
And Magda also was there.
Magda was a summer.
So the product owner of Sylius, Magda, was also on this summer
training.
Summer training that we had. It was like a hell of an undertaking because we hired like 6 people.
Yep.
7 because 6 interns,
plus Grzegorz, which Grzegorz was there. Janek, who is still working for Sylius, you can meet both of them still on Sylius Cons, and greetings to both of them. Was also hired during this summer internships. Magda, who is product owner, also still works at Sylius. So
high school and student job fairs made careers already of like 5 or maybe even 6 Sylius core team members, current or ex-core team members.
I just wanted to say that I would, through all the story, I could make greetings to the people that we will be mentioning. So let's assume that every name that I mention, I have great memory with you and I greet all you. So I will not make the break every 5 minutes.
Okay, another question. Do you remember back then, what was the community like? Like you said you got this first reviews, and who are the people in the community? Did you already like contact people from other countries? How did it look like?
Like there was plenty of people that were involved in Sylius, and they were from many different countries. Guys from Serbia, guy from Singapore.
But I do not recall that much of review from them. There was like Arnaud from France who worked.
You know that you can check it out.
At least comments.
The point is that at this moment, mostly Paweł and Michał were making review for us. At least that's how I remember it. And then there were discussion about the core team, because it was the moment when the core team strength, the first one from the people from Serbia, etc., were fading out. And Paweł already had a company that could maintain it. So it appeared, because we didn't finish with the interns, we were the trainers for the interns. We created them 2 sample projects that they were developing over the summer, and we were like guiding them, making review. That was our we were interns for how to train others. So how to do reviews, etc., how to run the projects.
I just found a blog post from Paweł from 2014 where he says that already 174 people contributed to the code in 2014 from San Diego to Nepal. So it was already significant. I mean, in my memory, it's like that Sylius has grown like maybe in recent 5 to 6 years that much. But even back 10 years ago, it was already having...
there were people already involved in Sylius, because we there were people that were helping Paweł in open source to develop this project. And because obviously open source community is great, but it is not a stable way of developing the project. You just need to accept that people are mostly contributing it during their free time. So you cannot even expect that people will be doing it on daily basis. So that's why it was the decision from Paweł and from Michał to start the company that is responsible and accountable for doing the development.
Mateusz just opened a first peer of us, Sylius report bundle, which number is 2422, which means that plenty of work was done until now, and there's like literally hundreds of people all around the world at this stage. And the first reviewer of that was Józef, with whom we still meet on some conferences around Poland.
Guy from Poland, right?
Maintaining the contact.
Yeah, but there were also, as you said, Arnaud, people from many countries, Alexander, Daniel, Julian, Joseph, Maxim, and Sasha. So even before, like even in 10 years ago, Sylius already had a international core team and international community. Do you remember being already thrown into some client project, not the bundle inside of Sylius, but the custom work, implementing Sylius for somebody? Who was it? Can you say? Like,
I don't know. Can I?
I think you can, because we don't have NDA anymore. It's like the company. We are in the different.
It doesn't work like that, because you still sign the contract, which usually has like 5 years plus. You need still confirmation.
Descriptions.
We will check it out and we will beep the
that was the
names
of one from the Lakion. That should fade away.
That should fade away.
2 fade away, like Clink and Sonic Pocket. We can cut it out, but they didn't.
Okay.
But you mixed companies. Clink was the company that I was working as the first one, and you for the Racket.
From the Babolat.
Babolat.
Babolat, and that was a really interesting project, because just for all of you that
it's a very popular brand in tennis.
Because right now you see Sylius as a product company, because it is a product company. But back then, the Lakion was still the company that was supporting Sylius development, but also doing the agency work, because guys that needed some resources to develop the business. That's quite understandable. So a few years later, we skipped doing the project. We wanted to focus on the product development, but on the first years, we were still doing the development on top of Sylius. And I remember this project from Babolat. There was some kind of the configurator for the machines that were like stretching I don't know what the
strings.
The strings in the tennis racket. The rackets is the word.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Tennis pads.
Tennis racket.
Tennis racket.
Rocket.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, how complicated can it be? Like, it's like how complicated did it be that you need to just make it tight and that's all? And actually, there was like billions of attributes and parameters that you had to configure. It came out that some tennis players have their favorite brands of machines for these rackets, and they having like the pre-configured the configurations for the specific rackets for stretching the rackets, and they will have different rackets for different parts of the matches. Like I have no idea about tennis, but I had also no idea that it can be so complicated.
Bottom line of it is that there's a domain knowledge in absolutely everything. Like
Absolutely.
Like that was the moment when I realized that when you think about some domain, like outside of this domain, usually it's easy. Like how hard can it be? But then when you go deep, and then you realize that everything is so freaking complicated, and that's a good thing.
If I do not,
especially in B2B e-commerce, when you have the big industries, doing big business.
About big names, if I recall correctly, reports were also on the request on the RIS from London that they were needed, and that they were doing some kind of the review for us. But my first project was Clink, and it was also a Budweiser One Click or something like that later on, which was the API first application for mobile phone for mobile apps that was allowing you to gather alcohol from through API. So that actually put.
The funny thing is that Sylius did not have to API that day.
But it put a huge influence over me because that's how I became an API guy. Since that project, I was thinking into that area. So like the first project was the way was the reason how I moved with my career.
Okay, it's interesting that the very first request that you received actually directed you into the API.
Yes.
So alcohol programming interface, right?
Absolutely. That was
the description of Łukasz.
API guy, finally figured out what this means. But that's actually very interesting, to be honest, because nowadays you can request alcohol from Glovo or from any delivery app, can't you? I think the regulation changed. 10 years ago,
I don't know because that was for the US company. So I suppose that it was different back then and it is different right now because, as we know, everything changes in the US.
Plus, it had one major detail that was different than Glovo. It was like a uniform marketplace. It wasn't just B2C, headless B2C store. It was headless marketplace who scrap off the information who was providing. Or was rather something between drop shipment when you didn't know from which store you will receive your alcohol, but you had like unified list of all of the items that are available in all of the stores in your area, and there was like delivery guys that were collecting from proper stores depending on what you ordered.
I remember that I was doing, because you were working on this project, I was doing one thing to that project about the geo-localization, not the geo-localization, but the detection of the areas when you are to which supplier are you applied to regarding when you are ordering.
Got a very complex project at the very beginning of
that.
But that shows the abilities of Sylius. Like this is exactly the Sylius niche.
Moving on, 2016.
Yeah, but about your travels, do you remember your first travels? Was it happening this year? Okay, let's start from the Combodo. It was 16, right?
It was 17.
17 already.
Yeah, I just check it out because I have a very lot of things in my calendar, and it's TGV to Grenoble.
Yeah.
And it's from 2017, but the very beginning, that's the January. So
I think I was tasked.
You were tasked to organize the travel for me. Yeah. It worked out, so
wow. Still with us. It's not that typical for me to plan the travel properly, but this is our internal problem. Anyway, we have people for this now. Well, what I wanted to say is actually time for me. 2016. This is the year when I joined, but it was August, and I was also right after Erasmus, exactly like you in 2014, and I was just looking for some job offers, in the internet, and my very thought was that I don't want to work in any corporation, and I don't want to do anything boring. So I was looking for something that, and also the job was supposed to be flexible and half time because I was still a student. And the only offer that was interesting was the administration and marketing assistant in Lekion company. Because when I did the research, I discovered that there is a company of young people from Poland doing business with a software that I didn't know anything about IT and e-commerce back then. And I just was fascinated by the fact that people from here, my age, could do something that has like this broad audience, and the international impact with the community all over the world. And
I think
I joined knowing nothing, and I met you.
And I think that one of the craziest things back then in 2016 is that in this company there were like 10 people, while 6 of them were from one class in the one high school, because there were 2 of us, Grzegorz, which is 3, Paweł, Michał, and Sylwia.
And Sylwia who was
Yeah. And then we discovered after some months that we actually went to the same holidays a few years before.
To Spain, to Jordemark.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that we didn't met there. Like, no. I don't remember. You remember my sister, probably.
I do remember your sister, but she was just a friend.
That would be a crazy story.
Hello,
let's close the company. That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was fun. The small world, actually, which is small, even if it's 750,000 people.
Yeah. 2016.
2016, and alpha and beta versions of Sylius.
Yes. So we are already then focusing a little bit more on the product work, but still doing some projects. Okay. I remember Sonic Pocket that you already mentioned.
Okay.
Like, it was an interesting idea from the Scottish guy. It was the education platform based on Sylius.
But anyway, the project was interesting because you could earn coins as a child that translated into, I don't know, some value to buy.
Some value, yes. You could buy with these coins, you could buy some toys or something like this. So basically, this was the education platform that was also educating you in saving money or earning money. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting choice. I think it didn't work out.
The website is still there, but it's like not working. It's like, I guess,
not because of us. Not
you can download the app in the App Store and in Google Play.
To be honest, I don't fully remember how.
But it was a very interesting educational project where, this is the example where you see that e-commerce is not that obvious, that e-commerce operations could happen in an application for education for children, which is cool, actually. Okay, so my task basically in this year were to start the social media for Sylius, because back then I think only Twitter existed, and Paweł had this automation between Twitter and GitHub. The GitHub pushed the new releases and pull requests, I guess, also. And from time to time he published some article, but there was nothing. There was no LinkedIn. I think Facebook was also not existing, and Instagram as well. And also we started together the Slack community, which was exactly like, there were no members. I think Paweł started it, and I was already requested to kind of boost the community, answer to some comments. Even if I didn't know the code, I don't know the code to this day too much, but I was capable of starting talking to people, and that was the beginning of my career with Sylius, actually. And then 2017 came, and that was the year of the early in the year was the split, or
it was the split.
It was like in March, April.
Yeah, so Paweł left the Lakion company, started the Sylius company, and we moved to Sylius because we wanted to be closer to the product that we were already quite attached to emotionally and businessly. So
I remember I was not sure if I'm gonna continue because I was just the social media guy, and I said to Paweł that give me a try, like let me try myself, and I will prove you that we're gonna go far together. And it worked out, actually, and I had a lot of satisfaction of boosting the community and preparing the first campaign, the quasi-professional campaign of Sylius 1.0 release. It was the first stable release of Sylius. It happened in September 2017. But we can come back to this later. Let's start from the beginning of 2017. So we are joining the new company after Lakion called Sylius. Exactly
that
the same
was funny
as the
because
product.
That was a moment when we were like, you were finishing with Grzegorz and bigger chunk of the people the project at Lakion.
Yeah, so we were finishing.
I had something to work. I don't recall the project that worked directly with Paweł, which meant that I went with him from day one, something like that. And there was like no one in the office, and
you were the first employee of the new company.
Day by day, people started rising like a week later, etc. Because it was like people were finishing their work, and then they were joining us. And then another mention is the first day when we met Mikołaj from Beatback, for the first time. He was already like the year before in the community or somewhere like that, if I recall correctly, but that was the first time we met on the event.
Yeah, it was funny that we are meeting a guy from Poland in Berlin. It showed kind of the power of the community. And actually back then, I think the only meetups were organized in Germany or maybe in France as well. But Poland is actually coming up recently, like only thanks to, I guess, the new owners of Sylius who invested from the last 2 years.
And then there was the first time when we heard from Mikołaj that he was trying to do something on the Magento. It didn't work out. He got it much faster on the Sylius. And that's how they started the big back company, which is that influential in our ecosystem right now.
Yeah.
So that was the origin story of the relation.
Okay,
there.
do you remember the alpha and beta versions of Sylius before we go further? Like
what do you mean by do we remember?
I mean, there was a year, I remember, there was a year where when you decided to throw out like half or most of the features, what was
like
when was it?
Because there was a situation that we realized that we don't want to be a new Magento. We would like to be more like an e-commerce engine or e-commerce framework that we are going to be told later. So we decided that we don't need and we don't want too much features in Sylius, and it was this is one of the things that is sometimes taken as a drawback of Sylius, but it's actually a really conscious business decision that we decided that okay, so we throw out everything that is not strictly related to e-commerce. We throw everything that is not a generic e-commerce domain, and then we leave.
Or if it's not properly tested or mature enough, like report and import export, they were like behind, like not working properly or not tested properly or not mature enough. So there were some edge cases that were still not touched, and we prefer to cut it off instead of moving, because once we will sign alpha, beta, and 1.0, we will like signing a contract with the devil, and we need to maintain it over the years.
So the decision was before alpha.
Before alpha.
Okay. Yeah, we cut it for the alpha. That's why some projects
abandoned Sylius, because like we dropped some features that we're using.
I just wanted to mention, for example, Gabi, we're stuck with 0.19. Because at alpha version we already dropped some part of the code. If I recall correctly, the reasoning behind it. So that's why it was like that. And actually, the rewritten of it happened started in 2016, and this rewrite or removing some parts, new admin panel, etc., was one of the reasons. Or at least I think that it catalyzed the split of the companies, because we burned down a lot of money from the previous projects, and it was like.
But greetings to Gabi Udrescu from Romania and Stefan Dorn from Netherlands, who probably are one of the first first and only that remained in the community from 2014. Even though we have done so many changes in the core, and they had to keep up with all these changes.
The funny thing, at this moment, the previous core team was almost not that present. Probably Józef was the only one that we had some reviews. I do not recall the rest of them. Like also, we were thankful to work on the work that they left, but they wasn't that present. But this was when moment when the people like Victor started joining the community. It wasn't on the Slack back then, but from what I remember, the people were already starting to be involved into community.
I remember that in 2017, the very moment of announcing that we are going to finally launch the stable version of Sylius made more businesses coming, because I mean, this is the indication that the software is getting serious, right? That you can rely big business on it. Even though big businesses relied on Sylius even in alpha and beta editions, and some people still, I remember there were opinions on Twitter like Sylius in beta is still better than Magento 1X being stable for many years. So I think it's the quality mark. Anyway, let's talk about the release of the stable version 1.0. I think it was the first time I saw us and you specifically crunching a bit.
It was not, but it's like 2-3 days.
Was it? I remember it was a week maybe. No?
I think it was a few days.
A few days,
for
but the
dozen of hours
great.
every day.
Yeah.
And it was not supposed to be like this. Like we
received a note from Everzet, the creator of Behat, that he's maybe not proud, but he admires us. But then he would like to mention that crunching is
I remember his post about
is the sign of bad management rather than dedication.
And generally, I agree.
Of course.
I totally agree.
In the ideal world, you shouldn't crunch, but it happens in this industry, right?
It happens, but it should happen as rarely as possible. And it was one of the times that it was just we had to do that. But it was a really interesting time, I remember. And I remember that the release itself, we had like a little party in our office with champagne and team running around and doing stupid stuff.
I think I did cupcakes. It was first time in my life when I actually cooked or baked cupcakes.
They were awful.
That was so I mean, this actually this is the example of how much unnecessary person I was in the company. No.
The biggest added value from you was the chess match that happened just after that, and that's the peak for me.
Yeah, that was great. But before talking about the chess match, I want people to also remember and understand like. What was it back then for us? Because I was very excited. Like that, I didn't understand most of the things that were going on, but I understood on the high level what's happening. I loved this energy from the community, and I was the author of this 1.0 campaign that you were supposed to post yourself how you're waiting for the release. And people were doing like taking photos of themselves from all over the world, like baking cakes.
There was a cake from the Magma from Loic.
They were,
greetings to you as well.
I think nursing a child was somebody like Michael Babker. I think he was. Somebody was also like photographing himself from the peak of the mountain, waiting for Sylius from the peak of the mountain, and it was so great. Like I really felt the impact back then.
I believe that was the time, the very special moment that we realized that we are doing something special. That we are doing something that's meaningful for not only us but also for other people.
Absolutely.
Like when you mentioned Michael Babker, I never had the pleasure to meet him, but he's still active.
He came back recently.
7 years ago, he was active when we were releasing it. He's still active there, and he was like on his profile is like he's a US veteran, also involved in Joomla project. Was involved into Joomla project as far as I recall, and then he moved to.
So these kind of people already appreciated Sylius back then, which was significant. Joomla is still something in the history of PHP and CMSs.
And around that moment, that was the moment when, for the first time, I also felt the power of the community when I traveled with Kamil to Iran to meet Aram Alipur, who was also part of our community, even though the GitHub was forbidden in Iran and he had to commit changes through VPN if I do not miss any points. But we were visiting him in Iran just because there were like cheap flights, and he was all happy to meet someone from the Western countries, even if it was only Poland.
But amazing what people can do, like go extra mile and use GitHub via VPN only to contribute to Sylius. Amazing.
There's some people from Colombia, etc.
But you remember the special atmosphere of the office as well about playing chess and everything, because we moved from the let's say normal
corporation style
office to the flat. It was a flat on the ground floor. Zero floor. Okay, I suddenly stopped being able to speak English. And we had this wonderful terrace. Every time it was sunny, we went out on the terrace and we were just coding, talking stuff, planning, how to conquer the words. We even planned the first Sylius video course back then. And also the first classroom training sessions were planned from this terrace.
The only classroom
training that happened in France.
But speaking about traveling and seeing the community, 1.0 also marked the moment when we started working more on the partnership program. Part of the partnership was training program. And that's how we came up to traveling so much, because you were required to have training.
To be trained to become a partner, and it was like a few tens of training sessions that we did
but it was already 2018,
something like that.
And this is where my business career also starts. So I stopped being a marketer only. I started to finally sell something, because I could sell the partnership, which was like an annual payment, basically to be part of the system. It had some benefits like every other partnership deal that you can have in the IT industry. Also the training and consulting sessions. And I remember, because Combodo, I only planned the travel, but PHP Kari, and I think the training for MangoWeb, which was our first Czech partner and one of the first 8 partners in the Sylius history. So I sold the first ever day of Sylius training in my career. It was Lucas delivering it in Prague. And can you share your memories from this? There was a meetup with the local...
Everything went south with this trip. So I traveled there by Polski Bus or Flixbus. It should take like 7 hours, but took 12 because there were some car accident in the road.
Yeah.
I was late for the PHP Carry event, just traveling directly there. The next day there was open workshop organized together with Thomas von Truba.
Votruba, the author of Rector.
Rector, yeah. And then I spent the day with MangoWeb and Johannes, who's still also present. Johan, sorry.
And his company is right now called Free Beers, by the way.
Yeah.
And they still do Sylius and plugins for the Czech market.
So after like 2 crazy days, I finally had a beer with him on the Vetłava River. Not sure what's the...
Vetłava, yeah.
We made the training with his team back then and travel back, but like for the first 2 days, everything that could go wrong went wrong because there was like problem with my accommodation, the problem with the transport. I was late.
Was it the first, also the time when you flew to Croatia to Lokastik, 2018? I think so.
It can be,
because you also have an interesting story from there with your accommodation, right?
I'm not sure how much of it we want to discuss, but that was Anthony, if you listen to that, you're a great guy. I love you and I love work with your team, Paul, etc. But the accommodation then was the worst place I spent a night in my whole life.
There were cockroaches, right?
Cockroaches on the walls. Yeah. It wasn't working correctly. Like I had a problem to access it. It was like in suburbs of Split. There were cockroaches on the wall. There was no direct connection or no easy connection with any place. So I was like directly outside of the city. Yeah, that were the main cockroaches were the highlight of it.
You delivered the training anyway.
Like, there was training, but I think that there was also some kind of the meetup that they organized.
There was a TNL meetup. I think.
No, TNL meetup was
later.
TNL meetup was earlier with Pavel there, and for me it was just a meetup for the Sylius because the Sylius community back then in Croatia was quite strong. There was NetGen and Lokastik involved into that. It was like second or third trip to Croatia for some meetups. For the Evo organized the first one in Zagreb, etc.
First meetup in Croatia was in May 2016.
So that was
thanks to NetGen and Lokastik. It's actually amazing because in Croatia, for some reason, there was a strong Sylius community. By the way, we are already in 2018, although we are jumping a bit here and there. And this was the year when the partnership program started, and thanks to the fact that we have this partnership program, we could actually deliver the training session because back then it was mandatory. So every agency that invested in the partnership also invested in the training. So do you remember any other training from this year, Mateusz, or maybe from this time?
I remember the training session in the UK that I did, and it was the only training session in the UK that we have ever done. For some reason, Sylius was not really strong in UK.
It's still not strong.
It's still a
very competitive market, yeah.
And it was in Cambridge, so it was really nice thing to go there. I was always more Oxford fan, but then when I came to Cambridge, it was like, wow, nice. I would like to live in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And I remember that on the training session, that was one of the moments when I realized how important it is to be properly trained by the experienced Sylius developer when you are starting to even though. It's quite...
Say it to the camera.
It's quite easy to start with Sylius when you already know Symfony. But when I jumped into the training session and I talked with the tech lead or team lead of the company, and they were like, "Oh, we already did some customizations of Sylius, so we are probably not newbies. So maybe we will go faster than you expect."
Yeah.
And then we did one of the really generic customization that we had, like creating a new shipping calculator, and we did it in like half an hour or something like this.
Yeah,
and it was like, wow, we did something like this. It took us 2 days to do like this because of the not very excellent documentation, but also not understanding the core concepts of Sylius. And it's like it was the moment when I realized that it is actually really important to be trained.
Yeah.
Because we had plenty of moments when we were asked, why do we need to be trained if we already were doing something with Sylius? And every time when I traveled to the company that asked for something like this, it was like at the end of the training, it was like, it was really nice to be trained. It opened our eyes to various things.
This is the great advertisement of the training session that we can deliver in the Symphony domain and e-commerce domain, because we don't deliver the official Sylius training anymore, but it's still very valuable to get trained by either Mateusz or Lucas in any related topic to Symphony and e-commerce.
Because we are super wise and super intelligent.
And super experienced.
Maybe you.
As I said, over 200 people already trained on your accounts, guys. So it's really, really amazing. And by the way, the partnership program grew from 0 to I think 75 or 80 today. And most of these agencies I could be hiring or supervising myself to the ecosystem. And what else? It was also the year of business, as I said, because it was a year after the release, and a lot of business came towards Sylius. And I think Brille 24, so Brille 24 from Germany, the major online optician, also signed with us this year. Do you remember working for them? Like, I remember it started from the very sentence, like it was, you know, among many emails that we received back then on the mailbox, it was just one sentence, something like, my company would like to investigate Sylius or something like this. And then it was the collaboration that lasted for many years.
I think you created plugins like admin order creation and order comments plugins.
Yeah, that. So we created some plugins that we're using in
invoicing and refund plugins.
Invoicing and refund
they
plugin
have
as well,
sponsored many plugins that are in use by this day. So greetings and thank you, Brille 24. You invested a lot into community, which is not that often. Not many big companies want to, give back to the open source. Lucas, question to you. I think 2018 also, as well, was the very moment of another idea sparking. It was multi-vendor marketplace. What are your lessons learned from creating an early version of multi-vendor marketplace for Sylius?
That could be probably the whole
podcast,
whole hour call. We made all the mistakes that could happen when you are too young, too ambitious, and you travel to too many conferences and almost would like to make a whole CV or resume out of one project. So there were like tons of problems, tons of bad decisions. Wrongly
and one client
designed,
who suffered a lot.
Wrongly designed admin panels, wrong split of domains, duplication of the content, wrongly applied command query separation pattern. I could probably just repeat wrongly and then repeat each part of the architecture. So it was an important lesson for all of us, business-wise and software-wise. And we had to maintain over 3 years also, like learn on our mistakes, how to maintain it, or actually how to keep it alive enough so the others can take it over, which was again to some extent feedback that took
over the project that we implemented,
which I'm grateful for.
And we are stopping because we are already talking for an hour, and I think we have enough. The history is something you love.
I love history, and I love our history.
But I think it's the best moment to cut it and do another half on another session or another recording session. I think it's a good moment to cut it because in 2019 we are introducing Sylius Plus, and Sylius becomes more serious business. So let's say the first chapter, the first half, community open source, early days, it's kind of finishing. And then 2019, we're going to enter serious business. Thank you very much for your attention. It was Mateusz, Lucas, and Lukasz. And Tymoteusz and Tymoteusz. Lucas and Lucas, Tymoteusz and Tymoteusz.
A lot of people.
A lot of code.